Maybe it's helpful if we talk about some other examples when you were press secretary. So this is on May 23rd, 2022. So just for the record, that was after you became press secretary. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
So speaking alongside Japanese Prime Minister Kishida in Tokyo, President Biden was asked, quote, "Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?" And President Biden responded, "Yes." The reporter responded, "Surprised, you are?" And President Biden stated, "That's the commitment we made." Do you recall that interaction?
Yeah, I recall.
Were you surprised by President Biden's statement in that moment?
In that moment, I can't speak to what I was thinking in that moment.
Did that statement appear to be at odds with what you understood to be President Biden or America's policy toward Taiwan?
From where our policy was, yes.
I'm sorry, could you be more specific?
Well, I was answering your question. Where our policy was it at odds? Yes.
Were you consulted were you involved in the handling of the aftermath of that?
Yes.
Did you advise President Biden on how to handle that issue going forward?
I think we all talked through with him about the statement. I want to be really clear. I can't specifically remember the conversation, but I was certainly part of the conversation. Yes.
Sure. Did President Biden explain how the mix-up, if it was a mix-up, how it happened, why it happened?
Honestly, I can't recall the specifics of the conversation on how he explained it.
Do you believe President Biden knew what he was saying when he said it? Or did he misspeak? What?
Look, I think that we had a conversation about it. I cannot recall specifically how it went back and forth. And so it's hard for me to characterize that today.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Yes, and we're still on it, folks. I had to watch a pretty good little bit before we got to this segment right here. There was a lot of nonsensical back and forth. I don't understand why the investigators were actually asking this, because there was like a 20 or 30 minute period, a 25-minute period or so of they would ask a question and then it would just go to redacted. Like, what? Like, why are they asking this question? It was like kind of nonsensical stuff, right? Some of it was in, but we're getting to this. So now they're starting to get into specifics, like noting that, hey, Joe Biden said that he would come to Taiwan's aid if China invaded. And she, knowing that this does not align with U.S. foreign policy towards China, that oh, there's nothing to see here. Of course, it's out of step with our foreign policy, but I didn't think at all that Joe Biden's statement was weird. Not in the least, folks. This is so fascinating. She expertly just dodges these questions one after another, after another, after another, and using the excuse, oh, I don't quite recall how that went down. You know, once again, folks, you can tell when somebody wants to answer questions, when somebody wants to be responsive to you, they will do everything they can. They will sit there and think for a minute and, you know, try to give you at least what the general sentiment of what they were saying back then, right? Nobody's going to remember the granular details of what was going on 3 or 4 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, right? Like, I'm sure that I could recall some bits of a conversation that I had with somebody, especially after somebody like President Biden says, yes, we will come to the aid of a foreign nation that nobody recognizes as an independent sovereign nation. And hang on, our foreign policy stance on that is completely the opposite of what he just said. Like, it's absurd. Like, this was a fiasco, right? This was an entire scandal. She personally had to walk back what Joe Biden said, and now she is saying she just doesn't remember. We understand you don't remember the details, but we want something, folks, and we're not getting anything, and I am really disappointed in these Republican investigators right here. They're not pressing her at all. I mean, they kind of do a little bit of pushback, if you want to call it that, but it's not much. But y'all smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Click the join button. Sign up and become a member. If you want to stay up to date with news and politics, it's the best place to be, folks. Without any further ado, let's get the rest of it.
I think in your opening statement, you said something along the lines of you never had a moment where you doubted President Biden's judgment. And this instance of seemingly forgetting about strategic ambiguity with regard to Taiwan, that wouldn't stand out to you as an instance where his judgment was at question?
The president was in the job for 4 years, and I think his record shows that he made critical, important decision that mattered to the American people, whether domestically or foreign. We're talking about 2 moments, I think, you just laid out to me. And he had 37 press conferences during his time, and that does not take away from believing that this was a president that was indeed competent to lead and to move this country forward.
Sure. I understand that you've been very clear, I think, on that, but and I don't mean to split hairs. You just said that there was never a moment where you doubted his judgment.
That continues to be true.
So in that moment where he appeared to forget or reject strategic ambiguity, you had no concerns about his judgment.
I wouldn't use that moment as an only time or a moment that would make me question anything about his competency. That does not change my statement.
Okay. Well, a third example, on June 20th, 2023, again, that being while you were White House press secretary, is that correct?
Yeah.
President Biden attended a fundraiser with Governor Gavin Newsom in California. During the fundraiser, President Biden called Chinese President Xi Jinping a dictator. I guess similar questions. Do you recall that instance?
Yes.
Were you surprised when President Biden said that?
I don't remember my initial reaction, but I do recall.
So I guess similarly then, did that statement appear to be at odds with the White House's general stance on China or President Xi Jinping?
Yes.
Do you believe that President Biden meant to say that when he said it?
What I will continue to believe is that this president was more than competent to lead and move this country forward. I can't get into characterizing or explaining for the president in that moment what he was thinking.
I guess the reason these examples stick out to me is in the course of our interviews and certainly my knowledge of President Biden's career, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, his expertise in foreign policy is something that many of the witnesses have brought up, even as something that distracted him at times from being sharp on domestic issues. And so these missteps appear. Do you not think that they're a reflection of his waning abilities?
I think that presidents, I don't think it's just Joe Biden. Presidents have had misspeaks, missteps. I think I said that in my opening statements. This is not a specific to one president. I think that we can go back and look at other presidents who have had similar situations. I think when it comes to his competency, when it comes to, again, getting things done when I was there in the 4 years for the American people, doing some historic policies, moving forward some historic policies and legislation, it would not have happened if it wasn't for this president's experience. It would not have happened if it wasn't for his leadership. And again, I mean, it goes back to what I said in my statement, that we are not perfect.
I guess I won't belabor the point, but certainly, as you mentioned, President Biden, made an uncountable number of statements and over the course of his presidency, and certainly, all presidents are bound to have a misstep here or there. And the reason that these and maybe some others we will bring up today stand out to me is because they do appear to be something that President Biden, operating at full capacity, would not have gotten wrong. You don't see it that way?
No, I don't. I think, again, I'm in my statement, I mentioned presidents with an S. That is very much something that happens with presidents, with all of us from time to time. But in those 4 years that I worked with him, he was able to accomplish a lot, and he was more than capable of doing the job and got things done in those 4 years. And we used to say this all the time, that most presidents can get done in their first two terms, in their 2 terms.
When you were, I understand what you're saying about missteps. I make them all the time. When you were debriefing or talking with President Biden about how to handle any kind of fallout from these rather significant missteps in terms of what American foreign policy was, you were talking with him. How would he respond?
What I can remember, he took it in. He listened, and that's what I could remember specifics or the details of, is like he just took it in.
Did he ever say, no, I said what I said, or, to the effect of, I said what I said and I meant it?
I don't remember those interactions specifically, but I know anytime that I would bring something up or I would say, this is what the press is saying, most of the time he would just take it in and listen.
Did you ever see President Biden yell in response to somebody trying to clean up something that he had said?
Not that I recall.
Did you ever see President Biden yell?
Not that I recall specifically.
And so, to be clear, you don't recall in any of those instances those 3 instances that I just discussed with you, you don't recall President Biden expressing regret about what he had said?
I don't remember the specific conversation. That's what I can share with you.
Did he ever say, when a plan was presented to clean up what had been said or clarify what he meant, did he, approve that kind of cleanup?
Normally, if it's coming from him, he would approve it. Yes.
What if it were coming from someone else?
No, meaning like if we would flag something like that to him. Again, you're asking me for granular details of the back and forth that I can't remember the granular, but I can speak to the process, and he would sign off on that.
So just for clarity's sake, you're talking generally about the process. How it
Generally
typically
about
works.
the process, if there was
Thank you.
something that we wanted to make sure he was comfortable with, and us saying yes. In general, the process was that.
Were there deviations from that general process?
Not that I recall.
And with those missteps, did you see those? Did you, going back to your entire time knowing Joe Biden, did you see those increase as he aged?
I can't speak to frequency or the amount of if it increased. I just know that we all have them and it happens. But I can't, as you know, I said this before. Did he get older? Yes. Did he age? Yes. And he would say this. I mean, he said many times about him getting older and not speaking as well and not walking as well. This is something coming directly from him. So he acknowledged that he aged. I can't speak to the frequency
I
and
understand.
change.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And I understand getting older, and I understand that walking slower is part of getting older. But you've lumped that in. President Biden lumped that in with speaking as well, and that raises different issues, I believe. Don't you think so?
I'm not a medical expert, so I can't speak to that.
Well, okay. Did you notice from your entire time knowing him that his speaking deteriorated?
What I will say is, his age, he definitely aged. We all make missteps. We all have bad days. Did he have some? Obviously, I said that at the top, that he did. I was not tracking everything that happened every day. So I can't speak to frequency. I'm not an expert, so I can't really speak to that.
So you think President Biden's speaking ability today or in 2024 is the same as when you first met him in 2009?
Obviously, it's not.
What about it changed?
I can't speak to specifics, but I mean, 2009 to 2024 is a lot of time has lapsed. All of us change. All of us age.
It's been reported that, again, we don't have the book. We will certainly be reading the book. Vice President, yours as well, but Vice President.
I thought you were talking about mine. I'm like, great.
Vice President Harris's book is reported to have said, reports to say, at 81, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. Do you agree with that?
I did not. I haven't read the book. I did not read the excerpt. I can't speak to it.
Okay, well, let's take out the fact that it's an excerpt from a book. Do you agree with Joe got tired? That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles.
That's not my observation. My observation that this was somebody who was always running around and doing things on behalf of the American people, whether that's traveling, whether that's speaking in front of the American people at the White House and talking about talking about policies or what it is that we're doing for the American people. That is not my experience.
So I find this all a bit fascinating. She noticed the difference in his speech patterns and his gait and all these other things that they have clearly declined, but he was still mentally competent to do the job. Like, no, that's not your observation that he got tired, that Kamala Harris was saying Joe Biden's getting old, he was getting tired, he couldn't speak anymore, and that's not your observation? It doesn't matter what your observation is. What you saw is what everybody else saw. It's what I saw. It's what you saw. What everybody saw, that Joe Biden was not capable of doing the job. Like, she really just sat there and said, no, my observation was he was running around all of the time. Are you kidding me with this? You mean getting lost on stage? When he goes to exit the stage, rambling on about nonsense, those kinds of things. Like, none of this makes any sense, folks. And I don't understand why these investigators are not freaking pushing back just a little bit on this. Like, they're just giving the most minimal of pushback. It's just so fascinating. She either answers a totally different question, she can't remember anything at all, or she answers like, well, everybody makes these kinds of mistakes. Everybody has a bad day. Everybody has missteps, don't they? Yeah, but you know what? People aren't going around talking about everybody's missteps like this on a constant basis, saying, well, we don't think Joe Biden's mentally capable of doing the job anymore, or we don't think such and such is mentally capable of doing the job anymore. Yes, everybody has bad days, but they don't have days like this.
Care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
Or this.
We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy? Because that's America. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to What must be what? I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America.
Or they don't do things like this either.
My administration is working around the clock to free the remaining hostages, just as we have freed hostages already. And here with us today is Hirsch Goldberg Poland, and is still, he is not here with us, but he's still being held by Hamas. He calls the erectionists who stormed Capitol Hill patriots. Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January the 6th if black Americans had stormed the Capitol?
We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shot.
Like, it's completely insane to watch some of these clips from Joe Biden and to hear her speak about her boss. To hear her speak about Joe Biden actually saying things like Xi Jinping is a dictator, and then having the whole White House press crew walk that stuff back, and she just doesn't remember these things. When she was asked repeatedly over and over and over and over again in the White House press briefing room about these things. You mean you don't remember that? You don't remember anything about Joe Biden's mental decline? Because, yeah, he was already declining. Once again, folks, I showed yesterday a comparison from Joe Biden in 2007 with 2023, 2024, and it's vast, folks. You can't make me believe that she is telling the truth in any respect at all. She is absolutely lying. These people are scumbags, all of them, that tried to pull the wool over our eyes. It was one of the largest gaslighting campaigns in American history, right? Which is still going on to this day. Once again, she's still doing it till this day. The veil has been lifted, folks, and we have seen into the mind's eye of Joe Biden. We see what is going on, and they are still trying to put up this narrative that Joe Biden was still mentally there. He was a freaking dynamo in the background, y'all. He absolutely was, and he was more than capable of doing this job, and any mistakes he makes is just the same mistake that you would make. In other words, if you were to get on stage and do a speech and stumble 84,000 times and then turn around and go to try to shake somebody's hand only to find that there was nobody there, that yes, that is something that normal people do all of the time. People always say, well, you know, Truman is shot under pressure, or they say something about beta calf care. Like, what are those things exactly? Like, Joe Biden had a lot of those words. A lot of those words. And we just brushed it off. The corporate press just ignored it until they couldn't ignore it anymore, until Joe Biden got on that debate stage. Once again, folks, if you guys remember, right, I have a poor memory, but it is not that poor. I can go back and remember that, yeah, I predicted that Joe Biden would absolutely fail on that debate stage. I predicted Joe Biden would eventually drop out of that presidential race. There was no way that he could be on the campaign trail while being that mentally incapacitated. There's no way. I predicted it. I didn't predict that the Democrats would just install Kamala Harris. I had a feeling they would do that, but I didn't actually get out there with any sort of prediction on any of those things. It's utterly absurd, these people, what they're trying to make us believe here. And these investigators, once again, squishy Republicans, they're not pushing back nearly hard enough. And I find it to be offensive, to be honest with you. Blatantly offensive. She should be locked up in prison for this. I'm not going to lie about that, y'all. Like, they perpetrated one of the biggest frauds on America by installing Joe Biden as a competent leader. I mean, he campaigned from his basement. Oh, I know, COVID. Conveniently, we had a pandemic, folks. Conveniently. I still find there's way too many coincidences with COVID to be just a coincidence, right? Just your run-of-the-mill, oh, this is just a happenstance, for crying out loud. All these different things just so happen to fall into place. You ain't gonna get me to take no shot, but hey, the vaccines work, y'all. I'm not gonna lie about that. Seriously, they work. It's utterly absurd, though. It really is. To watch these people still try to speak like, well, you know, I just don't remember that. it was a gigantic scandal and you don't remember any of it. Well, I don't remember the granular. Well, what was your opinion? What is your opinion now of what you may have thought back then? That's all we care about. Why aren't they saying these things? Why aren't they saying, look, that's fine. What do you think if Joe Biden were to say, if Joe Biden was still president and he said that today, how would you react in this moment right now if you heard that? Why don't they push back on, like, in that sort of way? Like, get rough with this lady. Why is this such a softball deposition, for crying out loud? It blows my mind, y'all. It kind of ticks me off because, once again, Democrats have no problems throwing you in jail. But Republicans, oh, well, you know, we don't want to go too far because Democrats will do it to us. I call shenanigans on that, y'all. I really do. I'm calling shenanigans on this whole thing. All right, watching this has kind of opened my eyes a little bit to just how squishy Republicans can be. These are congressional investigators. All right, these are supposed to be the people that are the people's investigators. This isn't government, y'all. This is absolutely not government. This is supposed to be they're investigating on our behalf, and they are doing nothing but dropping the ball every single time they get thrown the ball. It's always a fumble. Always, every single time. Once again, I don't believe in coincidences at that kind of scale. It's insane, y'all. But you guys, y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. I'd have worked myself into a frenzy over this. It's really insane, the gaslighting that is going on here. It's on another level, y'all. It really is. But like I said, y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere that you can. Click the join button. Sign up and become a member. That is the best way to help this channel explode and expand and grow and do all that good stuff that, you know, YouTube channels need to be doing to get better, if you will. But you guys remember that God has a plan for everybody, and He loves each and every one of you out there. But you guys try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.